You know, it's funny how a single afternoon can turn your whole world upside down. One minute, you're sipping lemonade on your porch, feeling like the unofficial mayor of your block. The next, you're staring at your own reflection, wondering when exactly you became the villain in someone else's story. Yeah, that happened, and I'm not too proud to admit it. Clarice Whitman, that's me, 20 years on Popular Drive, the kind of neighbor who remembers your kid's soccer schedule and whether your azaleas are overdue for trimming. I had a little notebook in my head. Who left their trash cans out? Who watered their lawn on the wrong day? Who was new? Who belonged? Some people called it nosy. I like to think of it as community spirit. You know what I mean? But let me back up a sec, because the way all this went down. Well, you need the whole story. It was a Saturday, sky clear as glass, Texas heat already pressing down. I was perched on my porch with binoculars and a sweating glass of lemonade when I spotted her, a black woman, maybe mid-30s, stretched out by the pool at the Henderson place. Now, the Hendersons had sold a month before. No moving trucks, no introductions, no casserole drop-offs. Just a stranger, alone, in a deep green swimsuit, reading her book like she'd always been there. Calm, almost too calm. The neighborhood has a rhythm, and this was offbeat. I told myself I was being prudent, but if I'm honest, it was more about habit. My finger hovered over the phone before I called the non-emergency police line. "Hi, I think someone's trespassing," I said, making sure my voice was extra polite, careful not to sound accusing. I described her vaguely, said she seemed out of place, but I didn't have any real reason, just a gut feeling that she didn't belong. Minutes later, two squad cars glided up the street, as if on cue. From my porch, heart thumping, I watched officers step through the open gate. They talked quietly, nothing heated. The woman stood up, not flustered, not scared, just steady, collected. She reached into her tote bag, pulled something out, handed it over. The officers nodded, exchanged a look, then they just left. No fuss, no scene, didn't even glance in my direction. The woman settled right back onto her lounger and lifted her book again. Unbothered, I sat there, lemonade warm, breath shallow, not sure what had just happened. It was only later, after a restless night, that I remembered something I'd overheard at the neighborhood association. Her name, Danielle Monroe. I grabbed my tablet, typed it in, and there it was, front page headlines, photos, official briefings. Deputy Director, FBI. My stomach dropped so fast it could have hit the floor. I'd called the police on a federal agent. Not just any agent. A black woman who had worked her way up the national security ladder. For what? Because she looked unfamiliar by the pool? Because she didn't fit the picture in my head of someone who belongs? That realization hit harder than any gossip ever could. By Sunday, the neighborhood was buzzing, not with bees, but with texts and group chats. People wondered why I'd made the call. Some said I'd always been a little too watchful. The joke stung. I walked to the mailbox and noticed people looking away, their faces pinched or busy, the way you avoid a car alarm you can't turn off. Carol, who called every day to swap stories, was silent. The feeling of being an outsider in my own home was new and sharp. From my window, I saw Danielle out front, trimming hedges with slow, purposeful movements, pausing to wave at joggers, always smiling. Nobody seemed suspicious now. In fact, neighbors brought her cookies, borrowed tools, stopped to chat. It was like she'd cracked some code I'd never learned. I realized, standing behind the curtain, that maybe she was the one who belonged, and I was the stranger now. By midweek, the isolation was no longer subtle. The routines that had once given me comfort, watering the garden at 8, sweeping the porch every Thursday, felt empty. The block's energy had shifted. Laughter rolled across yards where it used to be silent. Danielle wasn't just tolerated. She was welcomed, even cherished. The only person left on the outside was me, and not because anyone had thrown me out, but because my own actions had closed the door. One evening, I watched from my window as Danielle sat under string lights, soft jazz playing, 3 neighbors at her table. There was an ease to it, a belonging that had never existed before. I felt something unfamiliar, something like regret, maybe even shame. It wasn't just that I'd made a mistake, but that I'd built a life around assumptions I'd never bothered to question. Friday came, and I found myself cleaning the porch, not for show, but because I needed to do something with my hands, to sweep away more than dust. I didn't watch the street anymore. I listened to my own unease, my own quiet reckoning. Change had come to Popular Drive, not loudly, not with fanfare, but with a neighbor who simply took her place and waited for the rest of us to catch up. Then, an invitation hit my inbox, a meet and greet, hosted by Danielle herself. Let's get to know each other beyond the window pane. I stared at that message a long time, the words sinking in, feeling both honest and heavy. Saturday, with the air thick and hot, I found myself standing in my kitchen, lemon bars wrapped for the party, palms sweating. The hardest part wasn't crossing the street. It was opening my own door. When I finally walked over, grass tickling my ankles, I had no idea what to expect. Danielle met my eyes. She didn't smile, didn't flinch, just nodded, giving me room to join, but not forcing forgiveness. I listened as people shared stories, as laughter filled the air, as Danielle spoke about her work and family, her favorite barbecue joint. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing. I wasn't policing. I was just there. As dusk fell, I looked around and realized how much the neighborhood had changed, how much I had changed. I saw Danielle not as a badge or a title or a symbol, but as a person, someone who'd been forced, more than once, to explain her right to exist without suspicion. I went home, picked up my old binoculars from the windowsill, and put them in a drawer for good. The world outside didn't need watching anymore. It needed understanding, and maybe, just maybe, so did I. That night, as Danielle's porch light flicked on across the street, I exhaled. I knew it'd be a long road. One dinner, one apology, one honest conversation at a time. But for the first time, I wasn't trying to control the block. I was learning to belong. So here's what I want you to think about. Are there binoculars you're still using in your own life? Maybe it's time to put them away and open the door instead. Tell me, have you ever misjudged someone or been misjudged yourself? What changed you? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something, and subscribe for more real stories that challenge how we see each other. Because sometimes, the biggest change starts right on your own front porch.